Let me begin with a question that may disturb you. Who controls your life, you or the people who trigger you? The moment someone can provoke you at will, they have discovered the remote control to your destiny. And many intelligent, gifted, purpose-driven people lose their future not because they lack talent, but because they lack emotional discipline. Never react. Reaction is the language of insecurity. When you react instantly to criticism, insult, or gossip, you surrender your authority. A leader does not live at the mercy of other people's moods. A person of purpose does not respond to every noise. When a dog barks at an airplane, the airplane does not land to argue. It continues its flight. Why? Because it knows its altitude. What if I told you that the greatest threat to your future is not your enemies, not your competitors, not even your limitations, but your inability to control your reactions? Think about that for a moment. How many opportunities have been delayed because of one emotional outburst? How many relationships have been damaged because of one uncontrolled response? How many doors have quietly closed because someone decided you were talented? Emotional control is not weakness. It is refined power. Anyone can react. Reaction is instinctive. It is natural. It requires no training. But restraint is intentional. Restraint is disciplined. Restraint is the evidence of internal strength. When you react impulsively, you place your behavior in the hands of external circumstances. You allow people, pressure, and provocation to dictate your conduct. And the moment someone else can dictate your behavior, they have gained authority over you. The person who angers you controls you. That is not poetry, that is principle. If someone can provoke you at will, they have discovered the access point to your emotions. And once they control your emotions, they influence your decisions. Decisions shape direction. Direction determines destiny. So what seems like a small reaction is often a silent redirection of your future. Consider this: strong buildings are not shaken by passing winds because their foundations are deep. In the same way, a person grounded in purpose is not easily shaken by passing opinions. When you know who you are and where you are going, insults lose their power. Criticism becomes noise rather than injury. You begin to realize that not every comment deserves your emotion, and not every accusation deserves your energy. Emotional discipline is the highest form of leadership. Before you lead a company, a family, a movement, or a vision, you must lead yourself. Self-governance precedes public influence. If you cannot manage your temper, you cannot manage responsibility. If you cannot regulate your responses, you cannot regulate outcomes. Leadership is not about dominance over others. It is about mastery over self. Here is the hook. The strongest person in the room is often the quietest one. Not because they lack words, but because they possess control. They choose when to speak. They choose when to engage. They choose when to withdraw. That choice is power. Reaction removes choice. Reaction is automatic. Discipline is deliberate. Anger may feel powerful in the moment. Raising your voice may feel like strength. Defending yourself aggressively may feel like confidence. But uncontrolled emotion is expensive. It costs credibility. It costs respect. It costs opportunity. People may forgive your mistake, but they rarely forget your instability. Emotional maturity builds trust, and trust opens doors that talent alone cannot open. You must develop the ability to pause. That pause between stimulus and response is where power lies. In that pause, you decide whether you will be driven by impulse or directed by wisdom. In that pause, you protect your reputation. In that pause, you protect your future. The pause is small, but its impact is massive. There will always be provocation. The higher you rise, the more visible you become. And visibility attracts criticism. If you react to every voice, you will exhaust yourself before you reach your destination. Composure conserves energy. Composure protects focus. Composure communicates confidence. Imagine the freedom of being unprovocable. Imagine walking into environments where negativity cannot penetrate your peace. Imagine hearing criticism without internal collapse. That level of stability commands respect without demanding it. When you master your reactions, you master your presence. When you master your presence, You influence atmospheres. And when you influence atmospheres, you step into a dimension of authority that no one can easily take from you. What if I told you that the moment you stop trying to explain yourself to everyone is the moment your life begins to move forward at an unstoppable pace? Most people live in a state of constant explanation. They feel the need to justify their actions, clarify their intentions, and defend every choice they make. Every comment from others becomes an invitation to defend themselves, and every misunderstanding feels like a personal attack that demands a response. But the truth is, the need to explain is often born from insecurity. It is the ego's desperate attempt to validate itself to people who may never truly understand you. Stop and think about this. How many times have you felt drained after trying to convince someone of your perspective? How many hours, how much energy have been spent on people who were not willing to see the truth in the first place? Explaining yourself repeatedly is like pouring water into a cracked vessel. No matter how much you pour, it never fills. And while you are busy explaining, your purpose is waiting, your vision is waiting, and your potential is waiting. Every moment spent defending yourself is a moment you cannot invest in creating, building, or achieving. Here's the hook. Clarity in life does not come from explanation. Clarity comes from action. The results of your life, the consistency of your effort, and the quality of your work communicate far more powerfully than words ever could. A person of purpose does not need to explain themselves because their identity is evident through results. You do not convince the world with explanations. You influence the world through excellence. The people who demand explanations are rarely seeking understanding. They are seeking control. They want to manipulate, to provoke, or to test your boundaries. When you respond to every demand for justification, you hand over your authority. You give others a window into your emotions, your weaknesses, and your energy. And energy, once given away, is difficult to reclaim. Purpose-driven people understand that their energy is valuable, and it is a resource to be protected. Every time you explain yourself unnecessarily, you spend energy that should have been invested in your vision, your growth, and your impact. Another hook. Imagine a tree that spends its life explaining why it grows in a certain direction or why it produces the fruit it produces. It would never reach maturity. Its energy would be wasted on explanations that no one truly values. But the tree grows, the tree produces, and the world recognizes its greatness without a single word. Your life must be like the tree. Your work, your dedication, and your achievements speak louder than any justification you could offer. The need to explain yourself is often a trap laid by your own mind. It is a form of mental slavery that keeps you tethered to the opinions and perceptions of others. If you cannot break free from this need, you will constantly be at the mercy of external judgment. Freedom, influence, and leadership begin when you realize that the world's perception of you is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to fulfill your purpose, execute your mission, and maintain integrity in your actions. Here is a critical hook. The stronger your identity becomes, the less you feel compelled to explain. Confidence eliminates doubt. Purpose eliminates the need for validation. When you are certain of your mission and unwavering in your principles, you no longer waste time convincing others of your worth. Instead, you allow the evidence of your life, your discipline, your consistency, and your results to speak for itself. There will always be people who question, judge, and misunderstand you. That is inevitable. But responding to every criticism, clarifying every misunderstanding, and defending every action is optional. Choose instead to conserve your energy, protect your focus, and allow your results to create your narrative. The world respects effectiveness far more than excuses. The world honors discipline far more than explanations. And the world remembers those who let their actions, not their words, define them. When you stop explaining unnecessarily, you unlock time, energy, and freedom. You allow your life to move unhindered by the opinions of others. You step into a state of authority where you are guided by purpose, not by the approval or judgment of those around you. Let's dive deep into this one. Focus is not just a habit. It is the currency of achievement, the engine of success, and the secret weapon of every person who has ever achieved greatness. Most people misunderstand focus. They think it means doing a few things well or paying attention to tasks on a to-do list. That is only a small part of it. Real focus is the ability to direct your energy toward what truly matters while ignoring everything that does not serve your purpose. And here is the hook. The ability to ignore distractions is often more important than the ability to perform tasks. The world is filled with noise, and it will constantly attempt to hijack your attention. If you allow your energy to be consumed by every opinion, every comment, every distraction, you will never rise above mediocrity. Consider this: your attention is a resource, and like money, it must be spent wisely. When you focus on unimportant matters, you lose energy that could have been invested in growth, learning, or action. When you allow yourself to be drawn into arguments, debates, or the unnecessary approval of others, you are effectively bankrupting your own potential. Every distraction you entertain is a withdrawal from your future. And here is the truth that most people refuse to face. Greatness demands ruthless prioritization of attention. Not every problem deserves your response. Not every criticism deserves your energy. Not every request deserves your engagement. Here is a hook to consider. Lions do not chase every barking dog. They do not waste their power on insignificant threats. They conserve their energy for the hunt that truly matters. In the same way, your focus must be strategic. Not every battle is yours to fight. Not every comment requires a reply. Not every opinion deserves validation. The person who masters focus rises above the noise, stands in their purpose, and achieves results that others can only admire from the sidelines. Focus also builds resilience. When your attention is aligned with purpose, distractions lose their power. Criticism becomes irrelevant. Obstacles are merely temporary tests, not permanent blockades. The world will always attempt to pull you in multiple directions. Competitors will try to provoke you. Critics will try to destabilize you. Friends, family, and colleagues may demand your time and attention. And yet, the person who has learned to protect their focus becomes untouchable. Their energy is shielded, their purpose is clear, and their results are inevitable. Here is another hook. Imagine a river that flows freely toward the ocean. It does not get distracted by rocks, branches, or small streams. It continues in its path relentlessly until it reaches its destination. Your attention must behave like that river. Diversions are inevitable, but what defines you is whether you allow them to change your direction. The world will constantly attempt to redirect your energy, but your success depends on your ability to remain intentional, consistent, and unwavering. Focus creates momentum. Every small, deliberate effort compounds over time, building power that cannot be created by sporadic effort or constant distraction. Energy invested in purpose multiplies. Energy wasted on noise diminishes. People who lack focus often blame circumstances for their failures. People who master focus manipulate circumstances to serve their vision. And here is the hook: you cannot afford to spend your energy where it is not multiplying. Every day, every minute, every thought is an investment. Protect it, direct it, and prioritize it with unwavering commitment. Finally, focus cultivates clarity. When you pay attention to what matters, decisions become easier, priorities become clearer, and your path forward becomes visible. Confusion and overwhelm are often the result of scattering energy across too many fronts. The disciplined person recognizes that clarity is achieved not by doing more, but by doing less of what is irrelevant and more of what advances purpose. The greatest leaders, innovators, and visionaries in history did not achieve success because they worked harder than everyone else. They achieved it because they focused more deliberately than everyone else. Their energy was intentional, their attention was disciplined, and their priorities were clear. The hook here is undeniable. Your life will expand or contract in direct proportion to your ability to focus. Every distraction you ignore, every irrelevant demand you decline, and every trivial conflict you bypass adds power to your momentum. Protect your attention like it is gold, because in reality it is far more valuable than gold. Let's explore the profound power of silence, because silence is often misunderstood. People think silence is weakness, that silence is submission, or that silence is avoidance. Nothing could be further from the truth. Silence is strategic strength. It is the weapon of the wise, the shield of the disciplined, and the hallmark of those who have mastered themselves. Think about it. How often have you witnessed someone who speaks less but achieves more? Their words are measured, their actions deliberate, and their presence commands attention. That is the hook. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is authority waiting to be expressed at the right moment. Every word has a cost. Every argument drains energy. Every explanation consumes focus. The more you speak unnecessarily, the more you reveal your weaknesses, your emotions, and your vulnerabilities. Silence, on the other hand, conserves energy, protects reputation, and preserves momentum. The person who has mastered the art of silence does not respond to every attack, does not defend against every criticism, and does not explain themselves to every skeptic. They understand that power is often revealed not by how loudly you assert yourself, but by how calmly you allow the world to witness your results. Here is a hook to consider. Imagine an ocean, vast, deep, and calm. Storms may rage on its surface, winds may whip its waves, but its depth remains undisturbed. Silence works the same way. When you maintain calm in the midst of chaos, when you withhold reaction, when you choose observation over engagement, you position yourself above the noise. Others expend their energy in conflict and distraction, while you conserve your strength for meaningful action. Silence also protects your influence. When you react impulsively, you give away power. When you argue, you risk appearing defensive. When you explain, you risk being misunderstood. But when you are silent at the right moments, your presence becomes more commanding. People pay attention because they sense restraint. They respect the one who chooses observation over reaction, because that person demonstrates that their focus is greater than the noise around them. The hook here is undeniable. The less you feel compelled to justify yourself, the more your authority grows. Ignoring distractions is an act of wisdom. Not every battle is worth fighting. Not every comment requires engagement. Some words are designed to provoke, some criticism is meant to destabilize, and some conflicts exist only to distract. By remaining silent, by choosing not to participate in every conflict, you preserve energy that is better invested in pursuit of your goals. Focused energy multiplies results, while scattered energy dissipates into chaos. The greatest achievers in history understood this instinctively. They did not chase every critique, they did not argue with every adversary, and they did not explain themselves to every doubter. They remained silent, calculated, and relentless in pursuit of purpose. Silence is also a form of self-protection. In a world filled with negativity, criticism, and provocation, the ability to withhold response shields your mind from unnecessary stress. Emotional discipline is cultivated in the moments of silence. Patience is strengthened. Judgment becomes clear. You learn to distinguish what deserves engagement from what deserves disregard. The hook is simple. Silence teaches mastery over self, which in turn teaches mastery over circumstances. Consider the power of observation. When you remain silent, you notice patterns others miss. You see intentions others overlook. You anticipate movements others cannot predict. Silence allows clarity. It gives you the ability to respond only when response is truly necessary, and it ensures that your actions carry maximum impact. The world rewards those who act with deliberation. Loudness and haste may grab attention temporarily, but sustained influence comes from calculated restraint. Silence is the invisible force behind visible success. The person who masters silence is often the one who shapes outcomes, influences decisions, and moves with precision that others can only admire. Finally, here is the ultimate hook. Silence is not empty. It is the quiet strength that prepares you to act decisively when the time is right. The more you master the art of ignoring distractions and conserving your energy, the more unstoppable you become. The more strategic your silence. The more your presence speaks without uttering a single word. It is the weapon of leaders, the shield of visionaries, and the mark of those who understand that the greatest victories are won in the mind before they are claimed in the world.